before I actually do start, no, before that, I would like to thank everyone who's been organizing this wonderful event. I would like to thank very much all the judges who came here from far away just to listen to me, and all the other guys, of course. So thank you very much for that. Now, yeah, that would be it. Okay. Thank you for the floor, Mr. Speaker. In Russia, gays are being beaten to death just because they're gays. In Saudi Arabia, women are being killed just because they're women. We believe that as Western liberal democracies, we have an obligation to fight for the rights of the oppressed minorities, and that we have to spread this right, spread this fight around the world. So, in my point, I'm going to speak about two things here. I'm going to speak about how it is just to boycott the Olympic Games, the first one, and the second one, why it is actually going to be effective. So, going to the first point about the justice. Well, we are the Western liberal democracies. We've been in all kind of, the unions, like the European Union, like the United Nations, that have as one of their aims to spread the rights, to spread the idea of the existence of the human rights around the world, around all the national countries. And that is why we believe that we have a moral obligation to protect the rights of these people. We have a moral obligation to protect the rights of the oppressed minorities, and we don't have to step back. Once we told these minorities that, here guys, please do fight for rights in your countries, and whatever happens, we will always back you up. What actually happens is that they do protect their rights, they do fight for their rights, but instead of that, they get killed. And that is why we believe that in every case, when we can actually do help them, when we can help their problems, we have an obligation to actually speak up. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we believe that it would be not very just and not very fair to some of the citizens of our countries, like the sportsmen, like the watchers, and so on. But at the same time, we believe that the rights, when it comes to the question of life and death for the gays and for the women, it is a question of far more importance than the right to watch the Olympic Games on the TV with a national country. Second of all, we believe it is just. No, thank you. Second of all, we believe it is just that it is just because the Olympic Games is not just a sport event. Now it has already become a political event. Because it was Mr. Putin who himself was actually bidding for the Olympic Games, and that is how he actually discredited the legitimacy of the Olympic Games. He actually was the man who moved the Olympic Games from the category of sports into the category of political, political field, political platform. And it is the second reason why I believe it is just. Before I go to the efficiency point, I can take the, yeah.
Why do you believe actually that collective rights of Russian citizens that expressed absolutely assertively that propagation of homosexuality is not our culture, why we should to impose our imperialistic values?
Okay, thank you very much. We believe so because all the people in the world have rights. They have a right to be free from suffering. They have a right to be free from death, from being murdered, whoever they are. Once they don't commit the violent crimes and so on. What we see in the reality, what happens in Russia, that the gays, they've been killed, especially not in Moscow, especially in the small municipalities around Moscow, that they are being killed just because they're gays, and we believe it is morally wrong. So going to the efficiency points. First of all, we actually send in a signal to the minorities that they're not alone, so that they know that whatever happens to them, they will always stand up for them, so that they're not felt betrayed, so that they're not felt let down, and so on and so on. The second of all, we believe here that boycotting Olympic Games is a great and unique platform for speaking up. How is it so? First of all, when we're sending a message, when we are sending the message around the world that we, the Western liberal democracies, are boycotting the Olympic Games, it's gonna receive a huge coverage in all of the nations, and the reasons why we do actually boycott the Olympic Games would be as well, in this coverage. So all the people around the world, in all the countries, they would know.
Sir.
No, they would know that we are not boycotting the Olympic Games because, you know, just we want to, but we are doing that to protect the rights of the minorities, to, you know, to spread their idea. So the first point was the coverage. The second point, what I bring here, is that people would actually listen to us. Why would it happen? Please imagine Mr. Björndalen telling in front of 140 million people in the world of their fans that, you know, that he's boycotting the Olympics Games because he's not supporting Putin, and because instead he's supporting, like, you know, the gay people, and he actually believes that the gay people have rights. In this way, a lot of people, a lot of their fans would actually listen to him, and they would actually start thinking that maybe Putin is kind of a bad guy, and maybe the gays do indeed have their rights, and maybe indeed we have to change, you know, our behavior towards these people. So we believe that we are actually changing the mentality of people, both in Russia and in all the other countries around the world. No, I won't take any. The third point, what I'm bringing here, is that we are creating a leverage for fighting for the gay rights and the other minority rights in other press countries, like Saudi Arabia, that also bid for the Olympics Games, that also have bids for, you know, for the World Championship in football and soccer, in whatever they have. And so, why would it happen? Let's have a look at the Putin motives. Putin perceives Olympic Games not just as sporting event. He perceives this as, you know, as a status event. It's a way of him saying that we are strong, that he is personally strong, and that we as Russia can take out the power. It is the same principles and the same logics of the, you know, of the Saudi Arabia kings when they bid and when they convey the Olympics Games in their countries. However, when we say that we as Western liberal democracies are not coming to these countries for the Olympics Games, these sporting events actually do lose their legitimacy in the eyes of the world and in the eyes of both Putin and the Saudi Arabia kings. So once they lose their legitimacy, they won't be able, you know, to say that we are strong, we got the power and stuff like that, because, you know, because half of the world is not there. So when actually having the negotiations about the rights of the minorities with these oppressed states, we can use this as a leverage. We can say that we are not coming to your country as well as we did in Russia with the Olympics Games. If you do not, you know, if you do not say and that if you do not spread the word that the minorities actually have the rights. So for these reasons, because it is just and because it would be effective for the minorities all around the world, we beg you to propose.
I'd like to thank the Prime Minister for his speech and invite the leader of the opposition, Anastasia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the floor, and I will start. First of all, dear ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to do, I would like to remind you that we, as a Western liberal democracy, really based on very one important thing is tolerance to people right. So in this case, when we speak about tolerance to people right, we think that what is really important for us is to be tolerant to choice of other people, is to be tolerant for choice of the majority of the government, is to be tolerant to their decisions and to their words. So, first of all, what we have in our situation, we have, yes, Russian, yes, we have Russia. Yes, maybe it's not perfect democracy, but what we believe that this regime now is really the choice of people. It's really the choice of majority, and in this case, we should that we, as a Western liberal democracy, should respect, because it's our ideology, it's our imperialism in this case. Another thing. Yes, really, their regime is not perfect, but we think that this way, or the way of our government, is really not a soft power, and it's really cause very bad consequences. What? First of all, we really go against our main principle of democracy, and on face of our government, our main open society, we look really not so confident. We look really not so confident in our democracy ways. But it's not the main problem. Our main problem is really we can't change the perception of the Russian people and Russian society. Moreover, we will change it in another way. The people will respect Putin propaganda and Putin policy more and more. Why? Imagine we really accept this legislation. What I will think as a person, as a citizen of Russia, what I will think as a sportsman, I will think also what boys from their childhood training to take part in this Olympiad. A lot of people build some buildings to this Olympiad, some sports events and so on and so forth. Students of in our society take part in preparation part to this Olympiad. What I will think? I will think, what is happening really? What is this liberal democracy society doing? Our citizens can't participate in what they really want for a long time and for what they really work for a long time. What I will think as a person, as a citizen of Russia, I will think that really maybe Putin is so good. He protect my rights. He protect my wish to take part in the Olympiad. He protect my work to this Olympiad. And in this case, I will trust him more as a Russian citizen. And in this case, the soft power of our Western liberal democracy doesn't work at all. Moreover, it's really not it's not case of propaganda. It's not a soft. It's not a soft power, it's really the thing that causes a strong resonance in Russian society, and that's why we think that it is bad. Another thing, why it will cause so bad consequences, because media in Russia will show another picture. Media in Russia will show that some liberal democracy stop our Olympiad, stop something for what we're really preparing for a very, very long time. So what we will have in the final, nothing good, no liberal democracy in Russia. Another thing. Okay, your question.
Look, people would see that Putin is an idiot who are hosting Olympics and doesn't manage to organize in such a way that other countries participate in it. They will see that it's a fail of Putin.
You know that 60% from Bauman University that you enter take part in volunteers in this Olympiad. So fact is fact. We prepare to this. That's all. Another thing. What we will have if we really accept this legislation? We really have a change of perception of mind of Russian people. Even if now they have some ideas, some democracy ideas, and even they now trust our democracy ideas and see that Western liberal is really very nice, they really work by some soft power, they really deal by some peaceful deals, and they want a peace in the world. What I will think after this legislation, I will think, oh, Putin is really good, he's protecting my rights, I work for good things, and that's why it's my irrational sensitive will have no change really of perception. Then, when we speak about Gamma-Forbes feeling and what the first proposition told us, we speak that we really it's very sensitive feelings of people. And in this case, maybe that's really irrational, but there are feelings. When we accept this legislation, we unrespect their feelings, we unrespect their right to choose. And that's why we, as a Western liberal democracy, go against our main principles, our main core, and that's why we think this legislation is really awful. And last thing I would like to tell you is a few points about discrimination of people, discrimination of minorities, because minorities are people too, and label that we will have on some special political parties, because now, yes, they have their own core, they have their own decision, they have their own way of development of our country. When the Western liberal democracy will do the way they want as a government, we will discriminate the small part a big part of our society. We will discriminate political parties, and that's why we think it's bad for Russian too. And because of this, we cause a bad attitude from the citizens of the Russian society. So, I told you two main things. I told you that this legislation is really against the main core of Western liberal democracy and Western liberal values. And I told you that there will be no change in perception of Russian citizens. For all this reason, I beg you to oppose.
I would like to thank the leader of the opposition and to call the Deputy Prime Minister Whitney.
Thank you for the floor, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I have 2 points for you today. Firstly, why Sochi is so important for Russia, and so therefore why this will work. And second of all, why there is no other way for Russian minorities to break through this, break out of this vicious circle. But first of all, one big point of rebuttal of mainly what you were saying. So what you're trying to prove us is that all the Russian society naturally is against gays, and the Russian government has nothing to do with that altogether. What we're saying is Russian government, and Russian government is the one who imposes these ideas on the people. They are the ones that when the Russian law is being brought into the Duma, anti-gay law being brought into the Duma, they are the ones who pay 100 young people or just take them out of the universities because they're called the Putin's youth. They take them out on the streets just to stand there and pretend that everyone is against gays. So therefore what we're saying is that if the Russian society knew that Russian society has this tendency that, some of them will go after the others if they feel that all of them is going to the right direction. Unfortunately, in Russia, it's either you're with us or you're against us. And everyone is afraid to be against us. Why do you think everyone hates gays? There's no natural kind of hatred towards gays that everyone is being born with. So there's no cultural relativism for gay haters in Russia's history. So what we're saying is this has been imposed recently and over the years and years and over the legislation and over the law and these whole new laws that Russia is saying you are against gays. Therefore the people do start believing that. So we're saying is let's hold this government responsible and let's punish this government, okay? So that was this is my rebuttal, and let me just go to my first point. So what we're saying is that Sochi is not just a sports event. This is a political event. This is a huge event that should be based on shared values of the countries who participate. This is something, we always, why do we fight against Coca-Cola and McDonald's being the supporter and the sponsor of the Olympics? Because we care about the values that this event promotes. If we fight against that, why shouldn't we fight against gays, the most vulnerable group in this society, being oppressed by their own government? Okay, we should say that we are the liberal democracy that people should be looking up to and should be looking up for striving for better values. Okay, we're just saying that Russian people unfortunately do not see anyone else because they do not see any other values. So we're doing this not only to protecting our citizens back home because we have obligation to them to uphold our standards that we set up for, but also for the Russian citizens in Russia to show them there is a different opinion. Because why do you think that all Russians are against gays? It's just because the Russian media that's all what it's talking about. And there's unfortunately a saying that about Sochi and the Olympic Games, it's like talking about a dead man, either not at all or good things. Okay, in Russian it sounds better and more, Well, anyways, what we're saying is that basically, if we don't boycott these games, we're showing that we actually support Russia. We're showing that we actually say what you're doing is okay. Everything is okay. What we're saying is we should show this different kind of view. And we see that obviously the Russian side is propaganding against gays, so why shouldn't our side step up for this vulnerable group and propagate for gays? Okay, why should we say, well, actually this is okay? Because Russian gays right now are feeling so alone and so vulnerable, and they're being arrested every day, they're being beaten up. Why shouldn't we step up for them? We have the obligation to do so. So we're saying is that basically, going to my second point, there is no other way. The urgency is now, because right now the problem is the highest. Again, there are new laws being brought into the parliament, and the new laws are being accepted by crazy Russian politicians who like to believe that everyone in Russia is against gays. However, we already proved that these are just imposed ideas by the government, and no natural predisposition against gays exists in Russian society. Or not historically, not naturally, no other way. So what we're saying is, we are striving for this change, and we believe this change can come, and we are doing this by peaceful means. And this is how a liberal democracy should promote its values. We're saying there's no other way to do this. There's a huge opportunity for a platform for us to stand up, to have some prominent sports people speaking up and saying, you know what, this is not okay. I will not participate in these games. And if like a prominent sports person says, which everyone loves and is a role model for young people in Russia and abroad, and possibly minorities, if he says, you know, I'm not going to participate because I'm gay and you know, and I do not support this, or even I'm not gay and I still don't support this, if all of our sportsmen of our liberal democracy say we're not coming to these games, we see that, first of all, people will sort of listen and say, wait, you know, something is going on. Something probably is wrong in Russia if all of these countries who have some sort of reputation in the world, and we'd like to believe that it's kind of a good one, if all of these countries are standing up against Russia, there must be something wrong. And probably this is the only way how the change will start. So what we're saying is that the liberal democracies can't just talk the talk. They have to walk the walk. Are there any POIs?
Yes, maybe you finally will explain how it will really change situation in
yeah,
Russia.
exactly. Okay. So how this will change the situation in Russia? So what we're saying is that when we start sending this message to the people and say this is not okay, that we're basically putting our opinion out there. As I already said in my first point, there is no other opinion in Russia right now except that the gays are bad. When the foreign media starts covering this, when the liberal democracy, when all of these sportsmen are standing up and saying we're not going to the Olympics, the Russian people will probably start thinking that something is wrong and that that there's some crippled values that are being upheld right now in Russia. So what we're saying is Putin will have no choice but to stand up to his people and say, actually, gays are okay. Because if he really wants people to come to his Olympics, like he really wants these Olympics to be successful. He wants to show that he is the success. He is that success story that he has. This is the political he wants everyone to look up to Russia and say, yes, this is a wonderful Olympic Games. Well done, you Putin. So he really needs this support, and he really strives for it. So what we believe is that Putin will have no choice but to accept our terms. And if he sees that these Olympics are going to go down completely, and all of the investment that he's invested, all the money, all the political and manpower that he's invested with these games, all of his own people supporting the games and wanting the games to happen, if he's going to let down the whole country, he's probably going to go up on a platform and say, okay, actually, let's cancel the gay laws. And this is a huge change already. And we see this as just a small step, but this is a step towards the right direction. Thank you very much.
I'd like to take the Deputy Prime Minister and to call the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Iwan.
Good evening, honorable ladies and gentlemen. I'll bring just one viewpoint. It will be about real politics problems, why we will lose in international terms much more as a Western liberal society, and as many people who are suffering from different conflicts because of we will lose very important geopolitical actor in this case. Before this, a lot of rebuttal. So let's start from the very beginning. They came and told to us, we as a Western liberal society has some specific obligations. The only source of US obligation when you are cause of the problem itself. You do not believe that Western society is really a cause of this problem. Moreover, even if you recognize that there is a problem, my obligation, I have to be 100% sure that my policy will lead to positive outcome. We did not get this really right. I will show you why it's not true at all. Then, furthermore, when we can really interfere and in the sovereign state and to promote our Western liberal society's values. When it's a really harsh violation of these values, when it's some kind of a humanitarian crisis, genocide, something really, really bad is done. But what they didn't do, they didn't describe what type of a discrimination towards homosexuality is happening right now. What is the essence of this law? This law is called the ban for proliferation or propaganda of homosexualist culture among children. It implies very specific and necessary for Russians values, such like, I do not want that my children, for instance, at school or in a shop, will be capable to buy a book where will be a storyteller about two princes, for instance, yes? Or I do not want when homosexuals will come and openly express their sexuality to us. We do not want this. And it's our collective rights as a citizens, in according to all possible sociological research. It's not just a pervasive view of Mr. Putin. No, it's up to us to be affected by this sexuality as a certain type. The same way as in a Western liberal societies, in many states, is some kind of a prohibition, a literal prohibition on crosses. When I cannot wear my cross in France, for instance, because we recognize that there is some collective rights that should be respected when others' religious freedom will be affected. In the same way, sexuality, which is a very private issue, could be in such circumstances affected, and we think because of Western societies exactly do not only believe in the values of individuals but also in collective rights, they should be coherent in this and respect them. Secondly, then furthermore, about idea on about values. Like, okay, if we right now cooperate with Saudi Arabia when we did Olympic Games in China, do we really coherent in such case to be sufficiently capable to proceed all around the world that we are so consistent that we are going to protect rights of minorities? No, it will be clear to everyone, it's just a political case and nothing more. But what is more important is how we are capable to proceed exactly Russian citizens and why we will fail in these circumstances. Because of all type of discrimination, it depends on your perception. This perception could be changed, not through coercion, because of when I am as a citizen, right now live in Russia, which is do not really have sufficient free media resources, and information could be manipulative. And when we coerce on behalf of Western states, it will be an image, very pervasive image, that Western societies is trying to impose their imperialistic values, that they're trying to propagate this liberal ideology. But what is the most crucial here? Because of sexuality is very sensitive, but at the same moment, we are as a people right now here in Russia, many of us do not really believe in democracy and liberality, yes? It's the only opposition that's exactly liberals, yep? But I will have exactly association of liberalism and the protection of homosexuality, which is very sensitive matter for me. I will make a link that the whole idea of a freedom, it's about protection exactly of sexual minorities. I will less likely to support opposition to Mr. Putin. I will less likely to make the most important step in order to bring genuine protection of rights of these minorities is a democratic framework. It's a existence of a real opposition. It will be all of just undermined significantly. But furthermore, about real backlash. Because of Russian people, for average, is incredibly important to have Olympic Games. It's a spirit, sports spirit was very important from the USSR time. And when you make such type of a theft from them, because of this Olympic competition, will be really significant Olympic competition. I will be really disenfranchised as a just guys who like sport. Thereby, we're less likely to make a blame on these sexual minorities, and less likely to exactly increase my strong disappointment on them. And we have right now just two groups of people who exactly respect rights of homosexuals right now here. Those one who are some kind of bigots, bastards, as the same as Western liberal democracies. But the majority is just average guys who really just do not care about homosexuals. Like, okay, you can have your sex, but we do not want to be affected by your sexuality. But you are going to make shift of this large group towards exactly a more radical approach to them. We will lose them. So, please.
So, your dislike towards gays, do you think if it's we prove to you it's systematically reinforced, don't you think that it's systematically through the laws it can also change, as you said?
it can be changed through the laws if we have a position that will promote this type of laws through the meaningful persuasion of a public. Here you do make just an attack interference in a sensitive matter. Okay, last argument about real political interests. Because of, right now we understand that Russia is a very important agent in a lot of crises all over the world. They are presently, they are part of Security Council. They still are. We deal with them on the cases of energy. We buy their all this stuff. On the nuclear weapon, a lot of these things. But it has been told by the first government. So, and Russian Federation is at the same moment quite authoritarian regime. Is they told Putin is very, very proud that he got this possibility. To make, because of he came to the Olympic Committee personally and persuaded everyone. Furthermore, he created such image as a macho who do not lose any time. He is a sportsman. And when you, in a few months before this event, just make a theft, he's from two things. From subjective matter of a personal revenge, are more likely to sell more weapons to Syria when it will be huge, huge effect on through the murdering. Or he will not support any resolution of a protection, for instance, in Central African Republican crisis. All this stuff, he's less likely to engage, and we will have real problems, not just discrimination, but the murdering of a people through the impossibility to resolve conflicts. So, honorable ladies and gentlemen, because of backlash, because of real political case, we are up.
I'd like to thank the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, and to open the second half of this debate, I would like to invite the Member of Government, Ilya.
No, give me a second, please. Oh my God. Okay. Right. That's it. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, in my speech I'm going to talk about three things. First, why Putin's regime is about to fail and we should help it to fail. Second, why epic fail on Sochi Olympics will significantly decrease his political support inside Russia. And thirdly, how his fail in international relations with other countries will also help to bring down this regime. And most of my rebuttal will be integrated. So, first, just a little about what we should do. On the first tables, we heard a lot about issue about gays. Well, okay, it's important topic. But even if somehow First Op managed to convince you that really there is no problem with gays in Russia, or even more, that we should respect feelings of Russian people anyway, even if they vote by 100% for sentencing gays to death, even if you take all these things, which seems extremely unreasonable from the First Op, will still have big problems with Putin regime. Because not only gays, also Pussy Riot, unfair trial and clericalization of Russian society, crackdown of opposition, Bolotny trial, third trial against Khodorkovsky, trial against Mr. Navalny, trial against Magnitsky, mass human rights abuses on North Caucasus. Putin's regime is bad not only because of issues with gays. Putin's regime is awful from all possible values Western liberal democracies might have. And no reasonable opposition will argue this. No.
Please?
So, well, I'll take about... So, we want this regime, we just want to bring Putin's regime down. And we believe it's a great time for this, because now we see that rating of Putin is falling. This year it is less than 45%, is falling still. We now see that Navalny almost won, Russian opposition leader almost took second place against all the odds in Moscow. We see opposition mayors elected in different countries. We see that Putin's regime is in very bad shape, and we believe that if we add some additional hate from Russian people to Putin and some additional hate from Russian elites to Putin, we will crack it down. And we will crack this regime down. That will lead to solving issues with both rights of human rights, oppositioners, gays and all. Second, please.
If Putin's regime is so bad, maybe it's better to invade in Russia or impose
Oh,
economic
come on,
sanctions.
this is
Just
silly.
boycott.
This is silly. Come on, guys, you wasted POI. This is silly, really. You're not going to invade a country having nuclear weapon. Come on. Okay. How we're going to do this? First of all, what will happen if we boycott? You know, like Western liberal democracies and Russia are only countries with snow on this planet, right? So if Western liberal democracies boycott Olympics, there is no Olympics, just fail. Moreover, like not only there is the problems not only with translation of Olympic Games, just like ordinary Russian people will not came here because, you know, like, what are you going to see here? How Russian hockey team is playing against Uzbekistan? This is just silly, this is unreasonable. And all these volunteers will hate this situation. What will happen next? They will hate Putin for this. Why it is that? Because it is his fail. Look, he promised Olympics, he promised these games to Russian people. And of course, he should have taken risks of boycotting these games into account. He promised to Russians successful, great Olympics. And he is the manager of this process. And if the manager of this process fails, then he is a bad manager. They thought he can blame the West, he can blame gays. Look, it couldn't be worse in Russia than now. Even now, Putin blames gays and the West for all his fail. Now people are laughing for this because, gays are running plots against Russia. Westerners are running plots against Russia. But who the fuck are you, Putin? Are you a good president or not if you are unable to do anything in this country against this oath? That's it. Thus we believe that this massive fail with Olympics, with all these billions of rubles spent here, will lead to perception of Putin as incapable president. Therefore, it will lower his rating even more. To this extent, when oppositionals will be able to really fight united Russia and win it in all non-level to elections. Moreover, we believe it's very important to change perception of Russian elite. Look, what will happen if this will be boycotted? That means that Putin lost support of Western countries. Therefore, Russian oligarchs and Russian statesmen who have assets in the West will see that Putin is not a good guarantor of their assets. Therefore, they are more likely to support opposition. And Russian people themselves will see that Putin is not enough, is just irrelevant on the international scale. And like image of Putin as a tough guy who can rule things internationally is very important for his image. What we will get? We will get significant drop of rating of Putin and his ruling party at all levels. And therefore, that will open window of opportunity for Russian opposition to really change political situation, to really change parliaments on all level, and therefore, of course, change a situation with all this awful legislation against gays and so on. But some little points about backlash. They told us that it could lead to backlash. First of all, we don't believe that it could be worse with gays in Russia than now. Second of all, very important, we do believe that for Putin for all these years to continue to keep his rating from falling, he basically now used all possible mechanisms, all possible arguments that it is not his fault, but fault of some external powers or minorities and so on. It's not going to work. This card is already played. We as a Western liberal democracy should take Putin's regime down, and boycotting of Olympics is a perfect way to do this. Please vote.
I would like to thank the member of government, and to start the case for closing opposition, I would like to call the member of opposition, Veronica.
Before I start, I would like to tell this speech for my HEC Debating Society and to my boy Alexei.
So, we do... We do believe that people vote for Putin not because he is failing or not failing Sochi, but because he brings to Russia economic stability, economic growth, and because of all the stability which he brings here. And we do believe that, like your case, like people will start to not vote for him just because some USA team will not come to Olympic Games. Simply not true, simply not work. Because what mass media from Russia will do, they show that these strange people really hate us. They hate us not because of reason, but because we are other, because we are Russian. So try to make sure that these people, Russian people, will do trust that these people are strange, and because of that they didn't come, but because but not because we have some problems with our regimes. Rich people who will understand that Putin regime is not stable. Firstly, rich people is very, very limited number in Russia. Secondly, so it's not majority who vote really. Secondly, they are so close to power, otherwise they will be not rich in our country, where everything very corrupted, that they already support government too much because they have all these benefits from them. From first up, we had from first proposition by coming to Olympiad, for some reasons, we show that we support Olympiad. No, it will not work like this. If during Olympiad we will actively promote that we are against things which are going in Russia, we will show much more that we are against this than if we will just boycott this. And here my case. So I will tell you why we don't change from politics side and from people side situation, and when we didn't change something, we still will make our people to suffer. Why it will not change anything for average people mindset? So we're talking about average Russian people who don't know English, who don't watch liberal democracy news and newspapers and so on. So what they will see? Probably nothing, because we try to maximize to ignore this situation, or some message that these strange guys haven't come to us because it's too cold in Russia and they're afraid about our birth.
Come on.
Like, and so on so far. We do believe that here there was a comparison between that even if some of them will know. Even if some of them know that these people boycott us because they believe that we are different and because they don't like our way of life, and case when I will see some sportsmen who will actively promote that I came here, but I still for gays' rights, I still for human rights, and I see the sportsman, I see him in Russia, he came to my country to tell me this because he really not ignored just my Olympiad, but really tried to persuade me as many ways as possible, and he just win Olympiad or just put another record, so I have respect to him, I have loyalty to him, I have some similarity because I'm really proud of result he done. So we believe that for this person I will hear quite more than some news which will not covered by my news, and like t-shirts of whole USA and all other teams which will be promoted this every time will be more reminding for me than just boycotting my Olympiad. No, thank you. Regarding Putin regime, why we believe that it will not change? Because how actually Putin built his policy? By promoting patriarchal values, because what his election and what his people vote for this policy which promote these patriarchal values. So in case he will hear our West liberal and democracies messages, he will just lose all his electorate just because he goes against values he promotes for, he was staying for the last 10 years, I guess. So because of this, he will not change. And we already have seen this. We already have seen Olympiad in 1980, when we already did this as West liberal democracies, when we didn't come to Russia, when it was Brezhnev, I'm sorry, as our politicians, and nobody cares, because they ask us to take our army from Afghanistan. No soldier came from Afghanistan after this Olympiad. So we have seen that these examples works. Our sportsmen just weren't presented there, but no any help to Afghanistan people happened here first.
So is there any good future that the Russian minorities can have? Like, is there any scenario where they can be better?
Yes, and I just have told you, like, when I see a person who I trust, sportsman who just won, a team of which I'm really proud of results, I do believe them better as usual average person in Russia. Because we do believe that the problem is mostly connected with the usual average Russian people behavior, because here is day-to-day work, because Putin don't affect any gay directly, but what directly harm every gay when another person who really don't like him try to hit them every day. We do believe that most important to change these people mindset, and these people mindset we can change only coming directly to them, coming to directly to Olympia, talk to with volunteer, talking with Russian newspapers, giving a lot of interviews and so on, being reliable with our Russian people, not from very far from USA, telling to our newspapers some interviews on English, which they will never understand, but here in Russia. Last point, since we do believe that, and yes, actually, if there is was so important economical and political things and sanctions still working, if you do believe that Russian regime is so bad, don't discipline, please. Don't try like to show that we are trying to do something with you without really some harm for yourself or your economical growth. Do some harm for your growth. Do this economical sanction which really hurt your economics to make sure that you will change something. Otherwise, it seems like December. No, thank you. So what we will have after situation when it will not work? What we will do? We really just hit our values, our self-values, because what we will do? Firstly, some sportsmen will not come to Olympiad. And here, huge thing. You tell them that this sportsman will tell that I am not going because they are gay rights. Not all sportsmen support this paradigm. So most of sportsmen will actually lie to society. So we ask our people to lie to our society about our values to make sure that our values will stay. We do believe that by this we just punish, we just discriminate our values. So also we discriminate values of all these people who were trying, we voted for this sportsmen who waited for Olympiad because for them it's also sport major event. And we also, so here we, by prioritizing some values of our needs, we deprioritize needs of our direct citizens. So we're sure that we get concrete harm by harming our sportsmen and our citizens without this Olympiad, and we do not see direct exact consequences for good of gays in our Russia. So we believe here that because of this reason, because it will not for government regime, not for average people behavior, and it will harm our citizens, sportsmen and other people, we beg you to oppose. Thank you very much.
We'd like to thank the member of government and to sum up this debate beside opposition. Sorry. I would like to
Ladies and gentlemen, all things that proposes you by the opposition, it seems like try to play cards with the dealer who cheat you. Without the changing the regime, with the Putin, we cannot win this game at all. We should change the Putin, and we cannot use our aces, kings, or queens. We should change the game, change the dealer. So that's why we should we have our main aim. But first of all, rebuttal. They said that stability from the Putin is a good thing. But what is this stability? Corruption, decreasing in the level of the of the wealth of the people, the stagnation of the economic, decreasing of the rights of the people, and that reflects in the elections ratings in the Russia now. Russia, in the regime of Putin, as my colleague said, is in the bad shape, is a really bad shape, and we cannot compare it with the Brezhnev regime, which with a really stable regime. And only in that way, the boycott of the Olympic Games wasn't the best choice. But now it is the best choice to boycott Olympic Games. Now, they said that our Russian citizens will think that the liberal democracy is bad because they think we are Russian, so we are bad. No, our Russian sportsmen are pleased to welcome in every competition in our world. Our Russian flag is up to in the many competition, and everyone pride when Russia winning any one championship. But what is the Olympic Games? The Olympic Games is a project of the one man, of the Putin. So that's why our Russian citizens who are not fooled who are not fool people will know that this project is failed only because of the Putin. So what they also said, they said that our sportsmen could go to the Olympic Games and show and tell the Russians how good to be democracy, liberal people. But if Putin controlled the TV, he could cut these interviews. He could cut everything. He controlled the TV control, and no one will be heard it. So what will we have in the end of this idea? We will have the situation where we legitimize these Olympic Games. We show Russians that Putin's regime is normal regime, and that will be huge problem for us. And a little bit analysis for this game. Okay.
For whom are you going to make this image? For these suffering sexual minorities, or for Western public who knows already about all of this stuff?
Okay. First of all, what is our best aim in this motion and in this situation? Our main aim is to change the regime. Without changing the regime, maybe only one minority will be treated well, but any other minorities could be treated bad, because we should change the Putin at all. But anyway, we cannot affect the people directly in the Russia, because Putin controls at all the society, but due to mass media, other things and other. So we cannot change the people of the society, as you say that they really believe that, but we can't change the Putin, and without Putin, Russian people will be free. So no. So second question: which way will be best to solve this problem? And me and my colleagues said that Putin's fail is a really best way to do that. Putin really promised Russian people to make a really great Olympic Games, which will be the best Olympic Games in the history. And that was really his promise. So every people will link it, not because the Western democracies boycotted it, but only because Putin is not the macho, is not some good people who can't do anything, and that will affect the ratings of Putin. And now it could be the last thing to change mind of the people who before voted to the Putin, because this is the last crucial thing. No. So the next thing. Why Putin still on the power? Because Putin always finds some way to upgrade, increasing his rating. That was in Syria, for example, when he solved a problem and his rating increased in 2%, as I know. But no. But that's way. In that way, his rating is increased only because he found a decision in cooperating with democratic regimes, and in only one way he could increase his level, his popularity, only because he will find the way of cooperation. This thing will really decrease his level of popularity, because he can't be closer with the Western societies, and people of the Russian country believe that they are European people, and they should be much more linked with the Europe, and not be the people who have their own way. So why we should really do it? First, internal things, as we said, that this thing really will decreases the rating of the Putin in Russia, and it will change the situation in Russia at all. And other thing, external thing, why he will not, for example, will sell more money or more arms to the Syria, because of he has tied now by his obligations to the community of the world, and only one sphere where he has the power now is Russia inside. But we should change this situation and make the Russian people free. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the opposition whip and for the final speech of this tournament. Please welcome the opposition whip, Alexei.
Before I start, I'd like to dedicate my speech to Moscow State University Debating Club and to my teammates who are saying. Okay, let's start. In my analysis speech, I will answer two questions. So first, I will explain why it will not efficient, and so far it's not efficient, why it is a betrayal of our own ideas as Western liberal democracies. So first about efficiency. The prop side told us about very different aims why we should boycott Olympic Games. They told us about stopping right abuses, change mentality of people, and then about failing of Putin regime and lost support of Western regimes to Putin. So let's deal with them. About right abuses, the point of opening government. We believe that Putin will never stop his policy because his policy is extremely important for him. It's the analogy with Olympic Games in the Soviet Union in 1980 when Soviet troops in Afghanistan was so important for Soviet government because they were spreading influence of the Soviet Union over the world, and there was no withdrawal of Soviet troops after the boycott game. So boycott of Olympic Games, such image stuff doesn't work when we are dealing with very important, crucial policy. And we proved you that for Putin, his view of traditional Russian society is the base of his ideology. He could not just stop and cancel such policy because abusing gay rights is like a part of the whole entire his vision of the world. Yes, they told us that by doing boycott we are changing mentality of people. They will know another opinion of us and so on. We believe that our own aim is to change minds of Russian and Russian government because our population, Western liberal democracies, are already tolerant and we need to influence Russians. And we believe that we will get quite opposite effect because mass media in Russia will have two opportunities actually. They can just say nothing, or they just can say that our Olympic Games are not so great because of these homosexualists. We already hate them and we will hate them even more because they offended the whole nation, the project of the whole nation, the project of the whole Olympiad. More than that, they told us that games are platform to speak up. And my teammate has shown you the best opportunity because how we can use such platform more efficient. Because we believe, yes, that games are the platform to speak up, and that's why we should come and dedicate our gold medals to gay minority. In other case, we will never be heard. But in the case if some sportsmen will dedicate their interviews or they will wear T-shirts with some slogans and so on, that will attract more. It will attract more. Okay.
Alexei, look. Olympics is a platform to play sport. Television is a platform to speak up. And if television is controlled by the Putin, there will never be messages that Putin don't like. You will never be able to transfer these messages if TV is controlled by Putin.
We believe that it's much more harder to cut some words from interview of sportsmen who told about some gay abuses than just to say nothing about some sportsmen who just did not come. Okay, let's talk about the case of closing government. They told us about so we will fail Putin's regime. We believe that it's absolutely impossible because people in Russia support Putin because he gave us economic stability, and average people are still patient because they are okay with the whole situation. They are okay with corruption. They are okay that the whole power are in the hands of the narrow circle of people because they have the economic stability. That's why such image things like failing as a Olympiad would never affect them. No sense. We believe that average people would never prioritize Olympic Games over their own social welfare. That's the things average people do care about. They told us about that Putin will lose support of Western regime. We believe that no, it would never be happen because Putin has monopoly on oil and gas and the West needs it and will cooperate with Putin anyway. So, we have shown you that such measures are ineffective. And as far as they are ineffective, we believe that such boycott is just a betrayal of our own ideas as liberal democracy. First of all, we, as opposition side, don't understand why we can prioritize rights of some people somewhere over the rights of our own citizens, and no one explains such point. We can discriminate. Okay, it's inefficient when. We believe that if it's inefficient, Western liberal democracies doing boycott are just showing off. They are doing something just to show that they are engaging in protection of rights without any results, because I already explained you, because it's impossible to force Putin to change his policy as far as it's so important for him. It's the base of his whole ideology, his whole project of great Russian state, yes? And actually, we as Western liberal democracies are discriminating our own citizens, sportsmen and fans to save other people from discrimination. It is okay if it was efficient. It's not. We should not do that because we don't understand why we should betray our own citizens for some such ideal prospects which would never be achieved. Yes.
Look, as for sportsmen, we can easily, boycotting countries can easily run alternative Olympics as they did when boycotting Olympics at 1980. There's no problem at all.
We believe that Olympic Games is extremely crucial, important event for every single sportsman, because they are placed once in 4 years, because everybody knows that real Olympic Games should be placed in Sochi, and if you will not go to such Olympic Games, you are not participating in such great events, and you are not a part of history of sport, you are not a part of such heroes who are getting gold medals and so on. So, what we have explained to you. We have shown you better alternative how we can use Olympiad as a real platform to spread our ideas, to change mind of people, and we have proven you why in that case it will be less opportunities to censor such things. We explained to you why we can't make Putin change its policy by boycott, because these things, ideological things, are crucially important for him. And we have explained to you why it is will be betrayal of our own citizens, and we cannot prioritize their own rights over our just interests to show all the world that we do care about people's rights. So for all these reasons, we beg you to oppose.
Guys, please give